if you knew you were enough? What would your life look like? What would love look like? This is the Enough Factor broadcast, where we're redefining what makes you enough in life and in love. Now here's your host, Suzette Virna.
Hello everybody, it's your life coach and relationship solutionist Suzette Virna, and welcome to my Enough Factor podcast. Each week we bring you content that will amplify what I've identified as 3 critical factors of your enoughness: your voice, your value, and your vision. For I have found that when those are working in tandem, and they've been maximized, that you have a better experience of love and of life. If you're new, just to let you know a little bit about me, I'm your relationship solutionist, and I help high-achieving women redefine what makes them enough on their own terms so that they can break the cycle of failed relationships and attract great love into their lives. So, I want to talk about the author of confusion. Growing up in church, I used to always hear that God is not the author of confusion. If he's not the author of confusion, then I'm like, well, then he's not the author of confusion in relationships either, right? One of the things that stood out for me was the story of the man laying by the pool. And he has this encounter where he's asked, do you want to be whole? And he says in response, well, you know, when the water is troubled, there's nobody to put me in. As if he wasn't even heard. The question was, but do you want to be whole? And one of the things that I found to be true is when I ask people, do you want to attract great love? They will tell me all the things that are going wrong. And oftentimes, they don't answer the question. Right? And this man did the same thing. He was asked, do you want to be whole? And he's like, well, you know, every time I get ready to kind of put myself in this pool that's healing everybody, somebody always gets in before me. That's the first thing he would say. And the second thing was, and then there's nobody to put me in. So somebody gets there before me, and there's nobody to put me in, were his 2 complaints, right? And I hear that too. And don't you hear it when you talk to your girlfriends or you're talking to people about their relationship issues and problems? It's usually somebody else. Well, you know what? I'm not like her. I'm not like him. I don't look like that. I don't act like that. You know, or all the women that get men, you know, we all kind of generalize that difficult woman. I won't use the B word because I wasn't raised with it. And that's one word I have not gotten used to. Y'all know B with an itch. That word is just not one in my vernacular. But there are books written and people are saying that the women that end up with men are that. And you're like, but I'm not like that, right? So they're beating me to the punch because I'm not like that. Or nobody will help me. Nobody will help me. I asked this one, I talked to that one, nobody will help me. Those are 2 excuses we always use oftentimes when somebody's asking us a question that really, I tell people, you know what? When somebody who has the power to bless you asks you a question, answer it. Answer it. Right? Don't go into story time. Answer the question. Not with all the excuses, not with I'm so confused, not the whole thing, but just answer the question, right? But anyway, I digress. So he's answering and he's giving his story, right? And so it's like as if Jesus didn't even consider, didn't care, didn't say, you know what, I understand. Nobody's here to put you in this water. Nobody's here to help you to get healed. I get it. I understand. You've been laying here for a long time. You've seen other people get things that you haven't gotten. You've seen other people, ladies, get married and you haven't gotten married yet. I get it. I understand. I get it. He didn't even give any kind of attention to the man's story, to the man's excuses. He didn't. He said, listen, get up, take your bed up, and walk. That was the answer. And so I started looking at it and saying, okay, what does this have to do with confusion? One of the things that it says to me is, when you come and all you talk about is what you don't have, what's not going right, and you give a whole lot of reasons and excuses for where you are in your station in life, that I just believe, even with Jesus' response, God is almost like, but I didn't have nothing to do with any of that. If you're confused about where you are, if you're confused about your relationship, if you don't know who you are anymore, if you don't know what to do, if you stay confused in a relationship, wait a minute, I don't know nothing about that. I don't have nothing to do with that. And we're waiting for him to address it. And he's like, no, let me tell you what to do. Because I don't have anything to do with you losing yourself in relationships. That don't have nothing to do with me. It doesn't have anything to do with me and my husband can't get along. That ain't got nothing to do with me. I am not the author of your confusion. That is not what I'm about. I deal in truth and I deal in clarity. So if you've lost your ability to be clear, I'm not the author of that. Right? And before I start talking about what I saw with Jesus' response to the man laying by the pool, I do want to talk about, well, if God isn't the author of confusion, then who is? That's a relevant question to ask, isn't it? Well, if he's not the author of it, then who is? I started pondering that. I started pondering when I felt confused in my relationship. What was driving my confusion? If God didn't have nothing to do with it, then what was the perpetrator? What was the supplanter? What was the disruptor of my peace and my clarity and my joy? What was it? What was it? And I jotted down a couple of things of what it was. And then I kind of zeroed it down. You know how you start kind of brain dumping and then voila, here it is. And I said to myself, the only reason for confusion is a loss of who you are. That something has contradicted your value, your voice, your vision, your worth, your worthiness, your enoughness. The author of confusion is the contradiction. It's not the truth. It's the contradiction. So what is contradicting you? What's contradicting your voice, which is your clarity, your expression in the world, the way you show up, the way you represent, who you were created to be before the foundation of the world? What's contradicting your value, your worth, your worthiness? What's contradicting it? What's contradicting when I say your value? I'm talking about what you think of yourself. What you think about what you deserve. If you're questioning if what you're asking for is too much or too little, then somehow or another there's a contradiction in your value that you have not resolved. Or your vision. What is your vision for your relationship? What is your vision for how you're supposed to, how you want to show up in your relationship? What you want it to be? How it can build an environment where you can thrive. What's the contradiction? I know you want to make it about him. I know it. Just like that man laying by the pool, wanting to make it about everybody getting in before he could get in. You know, or nobody to put me in, nobody to help me. I know we want to play the victim. But because I believe the God that created us never sees us as victims. And I think that's why he does not answer confusion. Because he's not confused. He's not confused that we're beautifully and wonderfully made. He's not confused about when he created us, he said that's good. He's not confused about our worth and our worthiness. He's not the author of our confusion. So what's the contradiction that you haven't resolved about who you are that's causing you to accept less than what you deserve? That's causing you to second guess yourself. That's causing you to be all right when it's just you by yourself. But when you get in a relationship, it's confusion. Because if you truly know who you are, whose you are, and why you are, it does not matter who is in proximity with you. You are not confused. Their opinion doesn't confuse you. Their attitude doesn't confuse you. What they say about you does not confuse you. How they behave towards you does not confuse you. Them acting funny towards you does not confuse you. You are not confused by it because you've already located within yourself. You've done the work to know who you are, to know your value, to know your worth, to know your worthiness. And you're not allowing yourself to live in a situation where you're constantly having to prove it, where you're constantly having to explain it. Because some of us think, oh yeah, I know who I am. That's why I told him, if you don't so and so and so and so, then you can just go. But my thing is, but why are you in covenant with somebody you got to constantly remind who you are, that you got to fight for it, right? Hi, Beverly, that you got to fight for it. Why, if you know who you are, would you be with somebody that you got to constantly have a tug of war or arm wrestle with, that you got to constantly say, well, listen now, hey, this right here, I ain't gonna do it. And you can stay over there if you want to, or you can sit right here if you want to, but I'm doing this. Why would you even be in an intimate situation? Now, marriage is something different. Marriage has its ups and downs and sideways, but still, whether you're married or single, ladies, it does not matter. The position, whether you are single, married, dating for fun, wherever you find yourself. If you're it's complicated, if you're in a situationship, then it's not about the man. It's about the you that has not resolved that you're worthy enough that you don't have to stay in covenant or date somebody or live with somebody, that you've got to constantly remind who you are. And I have learned that the longer you're with somebody that challenges who you are, that doesn't value you to the same degree or more than you value yourself, it eats away at your clarity. The living with the contradiction eats away at your clarity. And that's why in the beginning of a relationship, you feel fine, you feel sexy, you feel good, you know who you are, you're all that. But then the longer you're in it, the more the goalpost gets moved, the more challenged you are, the more times you have to contradict it to get along, it causes you to lose a piece of yourself, little by little by little by little. And I have to say this. When I would get angry or be upset after a breakup, it wasn't so much about what he did to me. It was about what I allowed. That was the part that I was scapegoating him for. It was easier to be mad at him. It was easier to point my finger at him. It was so much easier to do that than for me to admit that I allowed it. That whatever was unresolved in me, that whatever payoff I was hoping to get, after a while it wasn't enough for selling my soul to get it. That's the issue. Knowing. Not thank you, Beverly. Knowing who you are and your worth. Knowing. That's the operative word. Knowing. A lot of us believe, we hope, we think, but we don't know. And our relationships are what really is the indicator that we don't know. I know this is tight, ladies, but you know I got to give it to you straight. I got to give it to you straight. There is nothing you can say to me to justify staying in a situation that is eating away at you, taking bites out of you. By the time you get out of it, you don't know who you are. By the time you get out of it, you're so exhausted. By the time you get out of it, you know, you are beat up, right? And we've normalized that. But again, for those of us that are people of faith, if we honor God and he's not the author of confusion, then God ain't got nothing to do with this. He knows who we are. He's not confused. It's that we don't know. We don't know. So much and so that when he sends us the answer, we tell him all the reasons why we can't take it. Just like this man laying by the pool. Laying by that pool, waiting for somebody to put him in. And if you notice, Jesus didn't even say nothing about it. He said, man, get up. Take up your bed and walk. Because he's like, I ain't got nothing to do with your confusion. I don't have nothing to do with your confusion. I come here to give you clarity. I come here for your wholeness. I come here to remind you of who you are. So let me remind you, person who's laying on the bed crippled. Let me remind you, person who's just, whoa, oh my God, my relationship life is so terrible and I just can't find a good man and oh, this, that, and the third. And I am not belittling it because I know it's real to you. But God isn't the author of it. When you are not confused about the value of someone, they cannot give you enough reasons to change your mind. And many of us, when God asks us, do you want to be whole? We want to give him all the reasons why we're not. Forgetting that he has the power. He has the power. And when he says, do you want to be whole? Then your response should be, heck yeah. Yes, I do. And then to do what he says. To accept the terms, to accept what he's giving. Knowing he knows exactly what he's asking. If that man said, but yeah, what you telling me to get up for? I can't walk. Don't you think if I could walk, I would be off this bed by now? Yes, Diane, you allowed it too? I get it. And that's when the light comes on. You realize it ain't that person's fault. It's what you allowed. Okay, maybe the first time that person hit you, it shocked you because you never saw it coming. But you're going back. You're being talked into going back into it. You're rationalizing the reason to stay in it. God is not the author of that. That's confusion. And he's not confused. And we're waiting for God to say something that's going to mirror our confusion. We're waiting for him to give us that answer. We're waiting for him to co-sign on our confusion, and he never will. Because he's not confused. He never will. It's the contradiction inside of us that we have not resolved. That's the author of the confusion. There is truth, and then there's a contradiction. And we have been socialized to put more focus on the contradiction and walk away from the truth. We justify the contradiction as if truth is supposed to say, oh, okay, yeah, okay, you've made a very good case. Okay, yeah, I get it. Okay, then stay in that situation, because I get it. God will say, like we're looking for God to say, yeah, stay in that, and I'll give you grace to keep letting this man hit you side the head. Oh yeah, stay in that, and I'll give you grace to keep suffering in silence. Oh yeah, stay in that. Yeah. You can keep praying. You can keep speaking in tongues. You can keep naming it and claiming it. And you can keep right on bypassing every opportunity for healing. And I'm supposed to co-sign and say it's okay. You have to know that ain't God. Because he's not the author of confusion. I hope y'all are hearing me today. And I think it's probably because it's getting closer to my Love on Your Terms Masterclass. Because the reason I bring it to you like this is because there's too many people out here, self-proclaimed experts in relationships, that are giving you all a pass to stay in the contradiction, to stay in the confusion. And they're trying to make you think that if you do this for a man, and if you do that for a man, and if you learn how to do this for a man, and if you learn how to do that for a man, it'll resolve it. And it's a lie. Because if you have to compromise to get him, you'll have to compromise to keep him. You will have to. Because you're already compromising to be in the relationship in the first place. And just because he puts a ring on it is not going to automatically make it go away. It's not. The health of your relationship is on you. Because you got to be healthy. And if that other person is resistant to your being healthy, to your growth, to you becoming the best version of yourself, if that person's intimidated by it, if that person needs to knock you down a couple of notches so that you won't leave them, then they are not healthy. got to bend over backward, if you got to abandon your dreams, abandon your worthiness, abandon all the things about you that God said are good, that person's not the right person. And you can pray till you blue in the face, and God will never be the author of confusion. In my first 2 marriages, I did everything. I got pastoral counseling. I did everything. I fasted. I prayed. I anointed with oil. I laid on the altar. I begged God. I did all of it. I did all of that, thinking that if I did, that God would change things. But he's not the author of confusion. And to me, I was going to say sadly, but I catch myself and say, no, it wasn't sadly. It was sadly then. I ended up divorcing him. And it was very sad to me. But I would not be in a relationship where I get to be me every day, where what's reflected back to me is God's love and acceptance for me in the personification of my husband. I get to experience it every day in a way that I never, ever could comprehend. And it's made my relationship with God even stronger, because I get to see the personification. I get to experience it. So I can say now, I know. And understand, it's not just because I'm married. My husband did not help me know. I had to get down to the knowing, to the point that I had terms. And I still have them. Being married to him is not making me weaker. It's not making me more confused. It's not making me compromise. It's not making me any of those things. I am becoming the best version of myself. Even my family members notice that I'm happy. My sister said to me, she said, you like yourself with him, don't you? I said, I actually do. I love who I'm becoming. And one of the things I always tell my clients and even the people that are in my Love on Your Terms group, I said, one thing I will promise you, I will not let you BS yourself. Because you're trying to convince me to be confused. And I'm very clear that you're valuable. I'm very clear that you're worth more. And so when I say I understand, it's not saying, oh, I co-sign on what you're saying. I'm saying, I understand you don't know your value yet. I'm letting you know that. I understand you haven't dug down deep enough to get in alignment with the truest you. You haven't befriended yourself yet. You haven't found somebody you can respect to that level yet. I understand that. And that's why when you come to my masterclass, I'm going to talk about it. Not talk against you, but talk against that very thing, that contradiction. And the reason I can be so passionate, ladies, is because I know where you are. I was there. I was there. Oh my God, I was socialized to believe the same things you were socialized to believe. I was. I watched it model for me. Watching my mom and my dad and listening to what people said and the way it was preached over the pulpit and all of that. I got socialized to believe that a man decides my value. That I'm not worthy of anything if I can't get somebody to want to put a ring on it. I was raised That to be a good woman is you have a job and you can cook and you can clean real good and you know how to be a good mama. That was what made you a keeper. And there's nothing wrong. If that's what you want to do, if that's the way you respect your husband or your whatever, I'm not coming against it. But what I'm saying is, if you're doing it to somehow earn your worth and worthiness, or that's the only thing you feel good for, then that's some confusion. That's a contradiction to how your Creator sees you. So we got to resolve the contradiction, right? First way, like Jesus told a man laying by the pool, get up, right? And getting up means get up out of that mindset. Get up out of that conditioning. Get up out of it. Whenever I have a decision to make, I always go up higher. I have found I have to rise up above it. And I really believe that's why Jesus told a man to stand up. Stand up higher than the contradiction. Get up out of it. Stand up. Take yourself mind space. That's why meditation and prayer, and for me going for walks in the park and moving my molecules around, it helps me to stand up, to rise above it, to get out of the fight and rise up. So stand up. Go higher than where you are. Go higher than that mindset. Go higher than that socialization. Go higher than that confusion. Go up higher. Elevate your mind. Elevate your esteem. Sometimes listening to motivational stuff helps me to elevate. Listen to something that tells you who you are. That's affirming and empowering. Dance. Have some fun. Lift yourself up out of that. Right? So get up. That was the first thing. And the second thing was take up your bed. In other words, stop with the excuses. Stop with the limiting beliefs. Stop with the justifications of why you lay in here. Why your relationship life is so bad. Stop with all this. Because all you're doing is spewing out the contradiction. Instead of that contradiction running you, find your power. Stop letting it dictate to you. You got the power. Don't let it run you anymore. Don't let it cripple you anymore. Get up. Take back your power. Take back your voice. Take back your value. Take back your vision. Get a hold of yourself. Get a hold of the situation. Stop letting it dictate. You get a hold of yourself. Get a hold of it. Don't let it rule you. Get a hold of it. And walk. No crutches. Stop looking for a man to pay the debt that the other man made. That ain't his job. Stop looking for a man to validate you. Stop looking for a man to do for you what you need to do for yourself. Take up your bed and walk. Walk. Move out of that place. Walk. Stand in your authority. Own it and walk with it. Walk with it. Because you have the power. You have the resources. You have what you need. Walk. Be healed. Be whole. Do what you have to do. Be determined that you're not going to accept anything less than your complete wholeness. You're not going to accept just a maybe man. You're not going to just accept a man that just thinks you're cute. You're going to have some standards. You're going to have some terms. And you're going to walk in your authority. You're going to walk in your value. You're going to walk in your worthiness. You're going to walk in your enoughness. You're not going to be afraid to let a man love you. You're not going to be afraid. There is no confusion. You're not afraid you're going to lose yourself. You're not afraid of getting hurt. You're not afraid that your heart going to be broken. You're not afraid you're going to go through another abusive situation because there are no more contradictions. You've resolved your contradictions.
And now a special announcement. If you've tried to do love on their terms and it didn't work, I've got the answer. Love on your terms. A free 5-day masterclass that takes you out of the passenger seat and into the driver's seat where you belong. To learn more and to sign up, go to SuzetteSolutions.com. That's SuzetteSolutions.com. It's free. It's now. That's SuzetteSolutions.com. I look forward to seeing you there.
If I'm talking to you, register for this masterclass.
And now a special announcement. If you've tried to do love on their terms and it didn't work, I've got the answer. Love on your terms. A free 5-day masterclass that takes you out of the passenger seat and into the driver's seat where you belong. To learn more and to sign up, go to SuzetteSolutions.com. That's SuzetteSolutions.com. It's free. It's now. That's SuzetteSolutions.com. I look forward to seeing you there.
Because the beautiful thing about the masterclass is it's multi-day. That means day after day after day, what you're learning is being reinforced day after day. It's getting more firmly in your mind. It's getting more firmly in your spirit. Ladies, get up from the contradiction. Get up from the contradiction. There's so much more waiting for you. And so in my Love on Your Terms Masterclass, we deep dive into who you are. Right out the gate, the very first session, is it me? Because that's what I hear. Is it me? Was it something I said? Was it something I did? Like, do I have this kind of something written across my forehead that says, don't love her? And then on night 2, we deal with, did I do something wrong? Because many of us, the reason that we can't move forward, or the reason you can't move forward, is because you're wondering, well, did I do something wrong? He didn't tell me. Did I do something wrong? And that's been plaguing you. And you've been trying to outrun it, but it comes up every time you meet somebody new. You're walking on eggshells because you're afraid you did something wrong. And since nobody told you what you did wrong, you trying to kind of figure it out on your own, or you're deferring to that man to let you know so you won't do it again. So we deal with that. On the 3rd night, we're going to deal with your superpower. On the first 2 nights, we're dealing with your insecurities, your unanswered questions. By the 3rd night, we're talking about who you are and what your superpower is to attract great love. So we're dealing we get out of the contradictions, and we're coming right in for who you are. On the 4th night, we're going to look at where the good men are. Because I hear that all the time. Where are all the good men? So we deal with that on the 4th night. And on the 5th night, we deal with the mindset of women who are happy in their relationships. What was their mindset? How do they go about it? How do they live out that relationship? How do they live it out so that they're happy? What do they know that I don't know? What mindset? You're going to deal with that on the 5th night. And then I got some bonus sessions in there. Oh, man. So you see, this is not going to be a typical masterclass.
Well, that's it for today. Thank you for joining me for this episode of the Enough Factor podcast. And make sure you register for the Love on Your Terms Masterclass. It starts tomorrow, and I hope to see you in the place. Bye now. You have just listened to the Enough Factor podcast with your host, Suzette Bernard. To get notified of new episodes or to dig deeper into today's topic, become a subscriber. And while you're at it, tell us how we're doing and what topics you're interested in. We appreciate your feedback and your reviews. Until next time, remember, you are worthy, you are worth it, you are enough.